Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we have our first reaction of 2024. I hope you all had a wonderful new year and I hope we have a great year ahead. This is No More Night by David Phelps. Now, I don't know much about this. This one was recommended to me quite a few times. I googled it and it looks to be a song written by David Phelps that was released in 2001. This will be my second David Phelps reaction. My previous one, which you can find in the description below or the card up here, was a Christmas one, Oh Holy Night. I looked up the lyrics to this song and it looks to be a religious song about redemption or hope or promise. I read somewhere that he wrote it out of his experiences of searching for solace in some difficult times. So without further ado, I think let's get straight into it.
The timeless theme, earth and heaven will pass away. It's not a dream. God will make all things new that day. Gone is the curse from which I stumbled and fell. Evil is banished to eternal hell. No.
Just some quick initial thoughts. So it doesn't look to be the case that any of the band is playing and we can hear some instruments that we can't see. So I'm just wondering, is it like a backing track that's being played? The pianist, can't really see who it is. It looks to me like it's Anthony Berger, the same pianist that we saw in Oh Holy Night. But we haven't seen any shots of him playing the keys. We can hear an electric piano, so I don't know if that's him playing or again if it's a backing track. Anyway, let's carry on.
No more tears, never crying again, and praises to the great I am. We will live in the light of the risen Lamb.
Okay, let's do a quick pause there, go over some points from that first section. Fair bit to talk about, actually. So the first thing is the overall style. To me, it seems a bit more in line with musical theatre, mostly due to the choice of instrumentation, such as the electric piano, the strings. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the electric piano, I can't see if it's who I think is Anthony Berger playing the piano, or if that's just a regular piano and he's not playing anything and the electric piano is in the backing track. Whichever it is, the piano style that we're hearing so far is very, very different to how we heard it in Oh Holy Night, which had these much more virtuosic runs going up and down, which I compared to a Chopin scherzo. It reminds me of a Chopin scherzo or something. So straight from the opening, it was surprising to me.
The timeless theme, earth and heaven will pass away.
The first thing that my body responds to in music is the harmony or the harmonic foundation underneath, which is basically just how the chords progress through and how they all relate to each other and how they sound. We open in what seems to be a 4/3 suspension in the 5/7 of E. I couldn't think of another way to say that. So let me play on the piano what I was expecting to hear after the first couple of seconds. It's caught my eye, so now I'm really engaged with this performance. On this note of harmony and unexpectedness, the harmony is quite jazzy, relatively speaking. I don't know if this is common with gospel music or not, because I don't know much gospel music. I'll assume it is. So my question is, if David wrote this song, did he write all the instrumental parts too, and all of their harmonies and chords? Or did he write the melody with a basic chord structure or basic chord sequence, and then the band or someone else made the arrangement? If you know, let me know down in the comments, because I'm curious. Again, on that part of unexpected chords, shortly afterwards, this time about 20 seconds in, we get this.
Gone
That there is an unexpected chord by traditional standards. This is what we're hearing. We move from E to C, which sounds a bit peculiar. The chord of C has a C, an E, and a G. The E is also in the scale of E. The G isn't though. In the scale of E, the G is sharpened, and so is the C. So it would sound more natural to go from to that. But instead we go from to this. So far the harmonies have definitely caught my ears. I won't focus too much more on the harmony side of things, I think, because there'll probably be too much to say. But my overall point here is that it's jazzy, funky, it's different. Whichever word you want to use for it, it's non-standard. And I think the fact it is non-standard makes it a bit more unique and a bit more impactful. Now the next part, I want you to listen out for the lowest part of the piano here. Do, 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 do. The electric piano, or a bass if it's a bass being played. But the word stumbled and fell, and the bass part is going down. 1, it's catchy, but 2, it's a nice representation of the words that are being sung. Very subtle imagery of falling. And then after that, notice the change in styles of voice that he uses here. It's so airy up there. He's making a conscious decision to use a more airy type of voice. We know he has the range to go up there in his more powerful voice, but he's using a weaker, airier voice. It's very breathy. This could just be stylistic, but I think it's because we're still towards the beginning of the song. It allows for an easier climax later on if he goes higher or with his full chest voice. We see it quite a lot with various arrangements of songs. I spied a couple of appreciative shots of Guy Penrod and Bill Gaither. Okay, let's carry on from where we left off.
See all around, now the nations bow down to see. The only sound is the praises to Christ our King. Slowly the names from the book are read. I know the King, so there's no need to dread. No more night, no more pain, no more tears, never crying again. And praises to the great I am. We will live in the light of the risen Lamb. See over there.
Alright, I'm sensing a build up here, so just a quick pause. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm not really familiar with gospel music, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. But from what I've heard, I do sense that a big part of it is the storytelling aspect of it. I feel sometimes the story or the lyrics can be lost a bit behind musical intricacies of other works. So at this moment in particular,
I know the King, so there's no need to dread.
I don't know why, but I just got a really strong sense of the storytelling aspect. That I found myself listening to the words much more than I typically do. He's conveying a message and I'm listening. Then the section that I'm about to play, David's rising up in pitch gradually. He's getting higher and higher. And the bass part, the opposite end of the musical spectrum that we're hearing, is accompanying him with a chromatic descending bass. So it's just moving up in stepwise motion, going. But to just add a bit of variety, it's playing other notes in between. So listen out for that.
And praises to the great I am.
See how it's playing notes in between? It's just enough to add variety whilst not taking away from the overall message, which is that every part here is kind of rising up, giving us the feeling that we're building up to something, to a climax. Will that be the most important part of the message? Maybe. I haven't heard it yet. Let's continue from where we left off. We just saw this, and as I was told in my last reaction video to David Phelps, the hands up is a sign of worship. So thanks to everyone who pointed that out to me. It makes much more sense now when I spot the people doing that.
Over there, there's a mansion, oh, that's prepared just for me, where I will live with my Savior eternally, and there will be no more night.
Still going. Four. What a way to end that. Wow. Top C sharp. Right, okay, I'm going to come back to that high note at the end. There are some points before that I wanted to say. So before that final high note, that C sharp, we get this note earlier on, which is a B flat. So that's here. And then later on, he's up here. And this B flat is pretty much the top of an expected tenor range to be able to go up there with your full chest voice. So this so far is kind of like the climax, and we also have some backing vocals coming in to emphasize it. It's the highest point so far. Also, by introducing backing vocals, I imagine it highlights this sense of togetherness or family. People are being united, whether that's in belief or maybe just in the music. And I thought there was some good camera work here.
Never crying again.
The lyrics are never crying again, as they're showing someone crying. Quite ironic, because even though they're crying, it's no doubt out of passion or happiness, maybe, as opposed to David singing about no more crying, as in no more suffering. Then here, we've got the pianist, Anthony Berger, which if you listen carefully, you can really hear those arpeggiated virtuosic runs, exactly like we saw in my previous reaction with Oh Holy Night. It's the same style of accompaniment, so I'm thinking it must be an Anthony Bergerization to include these virtuosic runs. And then the kind of highlight of the whole piece, that final top note, the top C sharp. That C sharp is one note higher than a real wow moment for operatic tenors, which would be this C here. That in that opera is kind of like the highlight. So David Phelps is higher than that. Sustaining it for so long, so in tune, so powerfully, so much control. Yeah, it's impressive. I think David has an extremely unique voice. I said in my last video, which was my first time hearing him, that I don't think he has a natural tenor voice. And I'm going to say that again in my second time hearing him. But what I mean by that is that I feel that he shouldn't be able to hit these notes. But he does, clearly, and so easily. In his chest voice, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. And if he is able to hit them, then I'm thinking surely it should be straining his voice and tiring his voice, but it's not. Yeah, very, very powerful singer. And for someone unfamiliar with gospel music such as myself, I can imagine that seeing him live would probably be quite a moving experience. Okay, well, that was No More Night, David Phelps. That's the second reaction. I'm sure there'll be more to come. So if you'd like me to hear anything by him in particular, please do let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you very much for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.